But anyway, what I was going to say is that Chief Sunshine is about the coolest cucumber in the parking lot. That guy is so calm. And you know what he is? He's a carpenter by profession. He's just a family guy. Nothing fancy. Handsome as hell. But he's a dad. He's a mushroom. And drives his pickup truck. And he's a carpenter. He ain't no fancy bellowag, business commerce degree or nothing, none of that. Yeah, I think he just fucked with the wrong guy. He's just a real down home all over the earth. And there's a few of them like that, chiefs. You just don't hear about them because they just work hard. They don't, you don't see them mouthing off or whatever.
They don't take that oil money thrown at them.
Mm-mm. No, they're hard working salt of the earth. They're you shake their hands and that's a working man's hand. And yet I sit and have breakfast or lunch with them, and they're down to earth. That Cold Lake Chief's a young guy. Relatively young compared to the rest. I don't think he's more than 40, 45. Maybe 50. I don't think so, though. Anyway, he's the representative for the National Child Care Committee, and he's a chief from Cold Lake, and he himself was in foster care. The most dirty, rotten story you could ever imagine that would happen to a child in the system happened to him. And now he's a chief. Kelsey, that's his name. Kelsey, what's his last name? Jacko. 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 Mm-hmm. He told me his story.
I got a phone call from a lady I haven't even talked to since I came back from Las Vegas. Again, too, when I came back, I should have bought tickets to go to Sioux Valley Powwow. That was 80th anniversary, because 3 months ago it would have been like $160. But nope, I had to spend it on casino. But anyway, I was talking to the lady, and she didn't know about the Globe and Mail's article about the lawsuit with lawyer Brime, Terry Brime, and because she was at our band meeting when they had the new chief and council, and they're like my aunt Regina and her daughter Jeannie, like they were attacking Lance, and Lance had to defend himself, and the chief, like Ellery, got up, and the question was like, why did you let go of the lawyer? He's been there, I think, 27 years, 25 years. Get this, he's now working with the Nakota, the Stonies. Okay, but I said, well, now that shit has hit the fan, they probably let him go. She says, no, I didn't hear about this story. I said, but we were talking, and she says, but I do remember at the band meeting, she said how they were justifying the release of this lawyer. And she said, I know that the chief and council had their lawyer there, and they did consult him while they were talking to like my aunt and her daughter, right? And of course there were, like, my cousin too worked with this lawyer too. But again too, like you don't know people like personally, but it's just the whole the timeline of it, and and even the emails that he sent to that Sam Marashi,
Yeah.
Like, and even 4 months, there was a period of 4 months that they hadn't even opened the contract, like the the procurement process policies. They didn't follow them.
Hmm.
And so here's the lawyer, sending this letter off. Oh, let Sam know, like this is open. And then at the same time, they signed it before it was, like it's just all like they've got all the paperwork. And I'm pretty sure that controller who had the 27-page document of all the monies, I'm pretty sure that leads into that too, because I think there was 31,000 or 41,000. There was so much, like it wasn't like 100,000, but money was given sort of as an initiative to, I don't know how it was supposed to come into Sudina, but there's Enoch and Métis Nation, three of the recovery centers that are being built on top of the 11 in Alberta. And I said to my friend, I said, this Danielle Smith and this Sam Marishi, I said, and all these separatists, I said, they've been in cahoots with everything to dismantle all the hard work, like decades and decades of Indigenous built up. I said, like closing Nietzsche.
Hmm.
And even having their hands in the Native Women's Shelter in Calgary, like staffing
Hmm.
it with separatist female, board members.
Hmm.
And again, it's because the Alberta government is playing politics with nonprofit, like
Hmm.
minorities against each other. So you have Africans coming into Calgary, buying for the same money as the Native Women's Shelter, and the Native Women's Shelter is getting the money because they have supporters of Danielle Smith on the board. And that's like, I was on the board for like decades ago, I think over 30 years ago, when it first started, before they even built it on McLeod Trail. And all the policies and things like that, like, like for me, I was a signing authority, and I just didn't want to sign things that I didn't know where the money was coming from. And plus that too, there was some mental health issues that I had with some of the board members, like lateral violence,
Like
misogyny towards
Ruth.
me. Exactly. Now,
Yeah, she's a basket case.
so so the reality is that whatever policies were in place to firmly establish Indigenous women, like again, that's the plus in terms of the foundation of it. They changed it. They changed it, and they even changed the name of the Native Women's Shelter. So there's this huge protest, and that's when that lady, what's Nepanak, Josie Nepanak,
Yeah,
yeah,
Josie. Yeah.
yeah. So all that had to do with this, like this, them, the separatists or the Danielle Smith dismantling indigenous foundations that were built by grassroots people. It's just to know that is really is repulsive. And again, too, it's all with the consent of some indigenous people who, they brown nose and throw a little money towards them, and then they bow and say, "Okay, yes, master, you're white, so you know everything." Like,
Yeah.
it's just, incredible. And I'm glad that Sturgeon Lake and Tall Cree, this Rath fellow is his money is being withheld. And one of the lawyers, I don't know, in the article, this lady I was talking to, she said, "Oh, Marina, he lives up in Pritis or Bride Creek." And as the fry bread burns, I'm going, damn. Because, like, I shouldn't laugh because I know all this money has been siphoned. Like the news article is saying that Roy Whitney and his family would benefit. And of course, one of the band counselors had to deliver the letter to Roy, and his house has security. Okay, 24/7 security. The daughter who passed away last month, she has a house built right on his compound. They have a compound. Like talk about rich, that they have to have security. Somebody must have informed him that one of the band counselors was going to deliver this letter. And when Roy got it, this is just like from one mouth to the next. He said, "Is this all that they got? Is this all that they're going to do? Like, just like it was no biggie." Like, the guy is so used. It's just he's just like Trump. He's a sad sack because he's so used to lying. He's even believing his own lies. There's nothing anybody can do. Even if he's prosecuted, he'll still say he's innocent. Like,
Paper trail doesn't lie though. Conflict of interest law, fraud, forgery, kickbacks, that doesn't lie. The paper trail will trail back to him, and that's where Carrie Tate and these journalists, they've got some really good lawyers in Globe and Mail. Globe and Mail, and they got CBC's got some of the best lawyers. They wouldn't print that shit if they didn't have evidence.
yes, yes.
So the gun is already pointing to him. He can be as cocky, as disrespectful as he wants, but at the end of the day, that's all going to come out in the wash.
Well, I was listening to a YouTube on the investigative reporters reporting the trial of Nathan Chasing Horse in Las Vegas. And the two were discussing the lawyers and just like how the first case and how they really were nitpicking everything. So yes, it's like, but the whole drama of it is like you said, the paper trail and these were like videos that got him and like the proof is in the pudding. And even then, when when the judge is sentencing, and he's saying he's not guilty, and she says, but there's evidence, there's the video, and still he's in denial, like he's still there going, no, that's what I mean. The proof is in the pudding. Like Roy Whitney will be on trial, the paperwork will be all there, and he'll still deny it. Like that's what I'm saying.
That's okay. That's a form of psychosis. Like it's that. Remember we talked about before about Donald Trump and Daniel Smith, and they think they're invincible. And I said, well, it's beyond narcissism. There's a new form of psychosis that, and the medical research has to be done. The separatist movement is behind all this crap, where they talk about, they blanketly, Indian women are this, Indian chiefs are corrupt, billions of dollars is going to First Nations. Meanwhile, they're the fucking freeloaders. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Is that we're not even shooting back. We're not even lighting the dynamite and throwing it back because it's so ridiculous.
well, that's
You'd
why.
be fighting forever and a day.
Well, that's why when immigrants don't know all this, and I'm saying no, people like Danielle Smith, I've grown up my whole life around pretending white people who stabbed me in the back. It's no biggie. But if you're an immigrant and you don't see it, and you're looking at the Native Women's Shelter, looking at Indigenous women, when the majority of the board on the for the women's shelter is white, who
Yeah.
who are separatists. That's just my opinion.
That's, not only are they separatists, listen to this. They're all Americanized, right-wing, fascist, Pentecostal bastards. I could go on with the list. They're not even Canadians in their psychosis. They're more apt to shoot and ask questions later.
Well, that's why I use the analogy. I said even though you grow up in a community with a neighbor your whole life, I said it's like anything in civil wars and places where the state police knock on the door and say, is so and so your neighbor home, or is your neighbor so and so, and they say yes. They say, well, we're going to shoot him in a firing squad, and they'll go ahead, like there's no love lost when it, like, again, this psychosis that's happening, because it's like every man for themselves. And for me, like I said, this whole issue of Nathan Chasing Horse being sponsored by the chief and council for 20 years has been percolating, and
Yeah.
and then everybody's going, oh well, we need a recovery center. I said, what the hell? You're painting our girls as being so fucking suicidal that we need a recovery center for 24/7. And I'm going, what the hell? We already have Nietzsche programs, healthy living programs run within our community, and you took it away. Damn
But
right.
they're being funded. They're being they're glad handlers. You know, they're not even. Yeah, they might have stopped drinking, but they're still fucking drunks. They behave like dry drunks. That's why I asked you, is Jeannie a drinker? Because to me, she behaves like she's drunk.
Well, that's why when I talk about my own family, I said, there's no, like, nobody drinks. There's no drug abuse, but yet look at what happened in terms of sexual crime. I said, even though that's not there in the equation, we're still suffering from this intergenerational trauma, and the how we think, this dry drunk kind of mentality, because
Yeah.
it suppresses, like, it just like, well, do we give a damn, like we suppress things, so because we go, oh, I'm too much pain to be triggered by this, I don't want to talk about it. And then you're going, well, how are you going to heal if you don't talk about it?
Listen here. This has been percolating in the back of my mind. You talk about things percolating over years. Billy Morin was a chief. They still refer to him as chief. I disagree. He's not a chief. He went to work for how long? A couple of years, maybe more, for Danielle Smith. The day she got elected and appointed premier. He went to work for her. And been fucking sucking her tit for all that time. And then he got elected MP. He had to have known about the liaison with Sutina. Billy Morin had to have known about the treatment center with Enoch. He had to have known they were going to battle with Nietzsche Institute and battle Marilyn, push her out of that in a snowbank in the middle of a pandemic. I can't even be civil. I can't even walk up to him and say, hi, good morning, Billy. I can't. I just walk right past him like I don't even know the asshole. I can't.
Well, even when Roy sent my aunt, I said, he's like a stag and she's like a doe. The stag will send the does out into the field before they go because they want to see if the coast is clear. She stands up in Edmonton and says, I have a letter from Chief Roy Whitney. Why? Because he's denying that he has any connection with Danielle Smith. Like, what the hell? And she's reading it. Like, she's getting this notoriety because she's a stand in for Chief Roy Whitney. What the hell's the matter with him? He's got no fucking backbone. My late dad used to say, when people had no backbone, I couldn't understand. Now that I'm an elder and I look back and I'm going, it means he's ashamed to be Indigenous. When you don't have a backbone, you're ashamed to be Indigenous. And that's just my opinion. The fact that all this was trying to cover up all what was percolating to make sure that the money flowed. If he didn't get into council, at least that contract was signed to Malika Holmes through that Sam Mareshki, like that's scandalous. And the fact that
It's correct. It's criminal.
and the fact that, like somebody was saying, well, were you there? Did you sign it? Well, all those counselors who were there, like there were checks being, like they said, invoices, double invoices, and when some of the band counselors questioned and said, I'm not signing, like just the oh, it's blacklisting other band counselors. When you're elected, the head chief is blacklisting band counselors. And they're trying to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. Now, the fact that he did, all this, even with the case of him, the sexual assault case on two men like 20, 30 years ago that has percolated to the top, and his propensity for boys. And that's why, like, for me, when I stopped being friends with this forensic psychologist, because he said, oh, I was his therapist. Not to me. Okay, I'm just an Indigenous woman. No, this fellow who I'd been associated with for over 30 years only disclosed this to two female tribal police. And those police women are no longer working for the police. I just got assigned a special constable, female constable, to look after me 24/7. And I asked, are all the Tsuut'ina elders getting special constables to if you have an emergency? And they said yes. So I called another elder. I said, are you getting a special constable? And she says, no, but it's good that you've got one. But I said, this is really, like, for me, I don't feel comfortable with it, only because I know that this whole investigation with Nathan Chasing Horse, yeah, it happened 20 years ago, but money was still being given out for the rent and for the care of his followers by the former chief and council. And I know some of the women who have major health bills in the States who applied to try and get reimbursed or to have their bills paid because their health insurance wasn't covering them in the United States. They didn't get it paid, but yet here's my niece, who, a follower of Nathan Chasing Horse, had her medical bill, $72,000 worth, paid for by the chief and council. Everything that, like, whatever connection he had to supporting Nathan Chasing Horse. That's why I said, that Fifth Estate could have added more, but because of the controversy that they had with Buffy St. Marie, they didn't report what they were hoping to report. And even then, too, when you had the three chiefs, Roy, Sanford, and Lee, they approached them to see if they could comment, and none of them did except Lee. Now, why is that? Well, because because leadership would go to housing and threaten the manager's job if that rental agreement wasn't paid. And all the travel expenses for Nathan's followers, like, they weren't taken out of the pocket of Roy Whitney. They came out of our band funds. So for me, when I asked, could I get reimbursed for going to Las Vegas because they sponsored 11 people to go down a month before me, it was refused. Yet I know those 11 people weren't going to get any kind of, like, they didn't have to pay back that money. So again, when people say, well, why are you harping on Nathan Chasing Horse? No, it's the fallout, the money trail, the manipulation of sucking money from the nation and throwing it to Nathan Chasing Horse. Who has that power but leadership?
Yeah. Oh, I think all that'll come out if Lance and them are doing their due diligence.
Well, I had spoke with Zach, and he was the one who had got in contact with the Globe and Mail
Right.
a couple of years ago, and so even that too, like, it's like I said, it's been percolating, but to actually have the lawsuit served, like, is monumental. And one of the descendants of Tsuut'ina Nation, like, they're not on the ban list, and some of these people are very bitter and very critical. They said, well, why didn't the chief and council tell us? Okay, I'm going, well, your grandmother is a nation member, but not you. Like, I'm pretty sure that the chief and council, from what I've heard, talking with Lance, is that, did you get that?
Yeah. 11-year-old Parker was last seen in the community of Thorncliffe on Thursday. He's a white female, 4'11", 90 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes, wearing dark shorts, headphones, and no shirt. If found, do not approach. Keep watching and call 911. He's an autistic missing child.
Oh,
And the government of Alberta has issued an exemption for CPS to do an alert. People in Cambrian Heights, Thorncliffe, North Haven, Highwood, High Park, Greenview, and all Calgarians are asked to check their property. So he is very autistic. That's so. But it's all going to come together. It's just like it has to be done incrementally because it's so huge. And to your credit and to the credit of Lance and Zachary and all the people, you know, I've been a victim. I've been a victim on the receiving end of the short end of the stick, and so have you. You know, and all the Albertans, and you and I have been directly impacted by this. And so have other people, but they don't realize it. There's another case, I think, that's being investigated by the RCMP, and that's those surgery suites. I'm not sure what they were calling them in the media. But Daniel Smith was handing out gifts, contracts, millions of dollars to build those suites on reserve. One of them was Enoch. For knee replacements and shit like that. So if you want to go for surgery, this is a privatization of healthcare. So if you have the money, you can go pay for it.
Well, that's why I mean these treatment centers. They say, they're going to service 2,000 people. I'm going, well, they're not going to service Tsuut'ina youth. So why did they put it out here? And why did they cut back services, money from the province that was already coming into healthy living for youth programs?
Yeah.
See, and here, there's a chief and council. We're helping our youth. Yeah, you signed that damn paper. That guy he only did 10% of the job, but he got 50% of that contract money before before the chief and the new council came in. That lawyer and the powers that be wrote that check. It's just like Sturgeon Lake trying to get that 15 million back. It's ridiculous what these separatists, these Puritans, we'll call them, for a lack of a better word, because it's just like the whole new world you're coming into. You're escaping persecution in England or the Europe, and you're coming into the new world. Well, come on, people, you all came into Alberta, sort of like some sort of persecution. I don't think so. So why aren't you making the best of it? Instead, you want to what? Again, take more money out of the mouths of vulnerable women and children. That's why I say ever since they discovered oil and they started those industrial schools, the one in Calgary, and then in Parliament within 20 years, within 10 years in Parliament, it's written. If we educate these boys, they're going to go back to the reserves, and they're going to marry girls, and they're going to convert them back to savages. It's a waste of our money and time. So we have to educate. We have to educate the girls too. So what do? They established Indian residential schools, all because they found oil. Shit. And then now, here's Trump feeding money into Daniel Smith. You have Putin and Russia feeding money into Alberta, again for separatist movement. You have two opposing factions who are oil hungry, because Alberta is the third largest oil producer in the world, and who's stopping it? First Nations, First
Yeah.
Nations people.
Yeah.
No, years ago when my uncle passed away, I was in grief and I was, just in grief. And I remember seeing and thinking of Superman and how, he had this big key and he'd fly this key into his fortress and churn it. Well, when I somehow I just saw Alberta as the shape of a keyhole, and that the like creator was going to put a keyhole, put the key in Alberta and churn it, and look at what's happening. This is my uncle's been gone for decades, but it's just the notion that, the I don't know. For me, in the podcasts that I do write talk about, I talk about the great mystery because a lot of these things have been predicted and have been manifested in so many indigenous people. Like you can't just shut it off. And I mean even there's records in Brandon Residential School of them experimenting on the children for psychic abilities. And then when I talk to people about collective and holistic approaches, especially when you're in a group where you trust everybody, that happens. I said it's a natural human process, but because of religiosity, everybody's looking at it as like they'll call it witchcraft or they'll call it something because they're so ignorant they don't understand it because they just think what Earth was only created 2,000 years ago. I mean, talk about the naivete or the reality of like a poor education or just the greed, like using that as an excuse. Like you said, human beings can do whatever the hell they want as long as they're given permission. And when you have a religious doctrine giving that permission, they've taken it. They've taken it too damn far. That what do they call that? Divine destiny or
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing all the interconnections that have to do with all the indigenous organizations that have been well established by so many indigenous people who've passed away, who were survivors of residential school, who knew what it was like to live with trauma. That's their legacy that this Danielle Smith is bastardizing, and this Roth, and even like putting this recovery center here. Like I just
But people have to realize, and this is something you need to focus on. What made Nietzsche unique is it was developed by our ancestors, our healers and our medicine people 50 plus years ago. And the reason being is they knew the residential school was going to close. And they said, we need to heal our people. Because at that time, alcohol was the drug. This is in the early 70s. And they said, they're going to close the residential schools, but we need to deal with the intergenerational trauma.
well, that's why I state in my podcast when I was a child, everybody visited everybody. You didn't
Yeah.
hear about violence or anything lateral. And then all of a sudden alcohol came and everything, all of a sudden the whole community became silent.
That's right. Yeah.
Like I've seen that shift in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And then I just, it, like, I don't know, there's no magic wand to change everything. People, like I grew up seeing people pretending to be white, if they had white ancestry or white blood. And I keep on saying my great grandmother had blue eyes, but she was a Dakota matriarch, spoke the language, taught her children the language, ran away from the cavalry. If they caught her, they would have executed her too, just like they did all the other relatives. I said there was no distinction. I said, but here and now, because of being ashamed. Like my grandfather said, they didn't start putting up fences until 1952.
They didn't
Uh,
start putting up what?
Boundary fences around Sutina until 74
Oh.
years ago.
See, at some point, Marina, and this is what we need, the bridge we need to cross, I need to cross, is where does Nietzsche fit in this big picture? I have to do my version of Nietzsche victimhood and how these assholes, these fascist pancake lovers, uh, have taken our culture and cherry pick what they want and get their token elders and their token chiefs like Billy Moore and you know just
And Roy Whitney.
and Roy Whitney, yeah.
See, and that's the whole thing too. Is like, I had Nietzsche training. I had all this training. Even my mom and my dad, like in terms of traditional ways of thinking. Because
Yeah,
people say, well, how did you know what Nathan Chasing Horse was all about? Because of that, Marilyn.
absolutely.
Do you think Nathan Chasing Horse would have thrived in a community where the majority of people had Nietzsche training?
Hmm. It'd be blown out of the water.
That's what makes it so tragic. That all the things that we built up, like my mother and my father, my grandparents, that this woman, this savior, we'll call her the Madonna, that she wishes she was a born again virgin. What the hell? Like, really, how dangerous is she?
Who is that?
Danielle Smith.
Oh, Danielle Smith, the old dog. Pancake princess.
Pancake princess.
Fuck you and your fascist pancakes. I almost died laughing. I thought this was a fucking joke. I went outside to have a smoke and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't stop laughing. I was just out of control. Then I realized it was at the K-Days pancake breakfast. And I just finished saying about a week or two ago, because we couldn't go to Calgary. We know we were broke as a joke. And we just finished moving my household, my daughter's household, my granddaughter's household. And then we're flat broke. We couldn't even go to a free breakfast or visit any of our friends. Anyway, long story short, I said, Daniel Smith better not show up to any of these K-Day pancake thingies. Exactly those words. I guess there she is. Because Edmonton is different from Calgary. Like, we don't put on a show. Everybody wear a cowboy hat, put a little shit on your boots. No. No. Our people here are blue collar, salt of the earth. We don't try to be corporate American cowboys. You know?
Or fall in love with the Wild West
The
theme.
Wild West show. And then, the only thing I watched on television, I used to watch the Chucks. Well, I don't watch that anymore because for me it's so painful because my brother used to run Chucks. And so we all got involved. Oh, it's a whole family thing. And so I'm still grieving over my brother who died recently. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to watch that. That just brings back too many memories and I want to sit here and cry. Well, then I got watching the ponies,
Yes.
the wild ponies, and then I got excited and I think this is wonderful. And all they got, those boys, was $25,000 check. And those fucking bull riders and everybody else bareback, they all got $100,000
Yes.
with a big, big bronze. How come our boys didn't get a big bronze? Fuck that.
Oh, because Enbridge, the sponsor of the Calgary Stampede, sponsored the competitive powwow for 2 days. Also, they sponsor the Indian village. So, like, they sort of think, well, we put in so much money. Yet they don't
Fuck
realize.
they're if it wasn't for Indians, they wouldn't have no fucking company.
Exactly. Because
Those are our resources.
they're sucking the tit of Mother Earth.
Exactly. And they're treating us like show dogs.
Yeah, my white friend, she says, yeah, when we ask for oil money, and they say, oh, we just throw money to the indigenous people. If they're squawking and fighting amongst each other, we just throw them money. She says, Marina, I've heard that in those meetings. I said, well, of course. I said, they don't give a shit. As long as they get money to pay their mortgage, their taxes, and whoever is working for them, they don't care who they put under the bus. They don't. And, they don't care if somebody's starving. They don't care if we don't have any sovereignty over our children. They don't care if our children are being trafficked at the age of 14. They don't give a damn that there's so many murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. Shit. And yet, what the hell? Talk about fucking white privilege and matriarchy. I said, you have to live and be born in it and every day face the injustice of it. I said, because if you haven't breathed it in and experienced it and be angry, like people are so angry, like of all this money, this is just one, that center, that money that was taken and spent without, like, the process, without it even being challenged. Like, I think too, there was also something to do with the ring road and just so many things that Roy had his fingers in. And, for me, I've grown up here. People can say whatever the hell they want to say about me. I know throughout my life, and since I was in my 20s, anytime there was some big controversy and somebody says, oh, somebody wrote a nasty letter to Chief and Counsel, Marina, they said it's you. Every excuse to defame my character, to, suppress my voice. Like, the only option I had was to start writing a blog because I put it out, just like in science fiction, I put it out in cyberspace, hoping that Superman or the Fantastic Four or somebody would see it.
Yeah.
Like, talk about delusional. But anyway, it worked. It damn well worked.
Exactly.
And bless people who have a voice, and I just it just makes me upset. And I know when I talk to people about this lawsuit, I know they're upset as well. But like, at what point is there consultation? I know as everything starts unraveling, I know the chief and council are going to have to approach the elders and again, I've said to other elders, I would say prosecute them, charge them. Yes, they're going to come back and live in Sutina, but restorative and transformative justice needs to be done, and they have to be held accountable for the community to understand these are our sovereign rights to protect our most vulnerable. That's why I said, what the hell did they do paying the rent for these 14, 15-year-olds? If they were rich or, had moved away from that cult and they came back and they sued the chief and council for not protecting them. That's the mantle that they take on when you swear on that you're going to, be an elected official. In a traditional sense, but it isn't traditional. Because they fail to protect the women and children.
Well, it's a breach of oath. It's treasonous. Because in every oath that I've seen, unless yours is different, which I doubt, there are protocols. Whether or not they recognize it or they're put in place, it doesn't matter. They have a sacred responsibility, and that's to look after all our beautiful girls and boys. You know, like my mother used to say, I used to think she was so, like, gross. You can't trust them, they'll stick their dink in everywhere it doesn't belong. Oh, don't worry about that one over there. You can't trust that one because you can't trust them with a package of donuts. My mother used to tell me. And oh, gross, mother. Like, I'm 10, 12 years old and I'm being schooled on human sexuality and deviance. But prior to that, I knew all that stuff from my great grandma in Cree. And I used to think, why is that? You know, I asked questions like, why is so and so always drunk? That couple over there, I see them walking on the road. This is in the 50s, before our people were even allowed to drink. Then they'd be passed out and, you know, fighting in public, and people would be scared they're going to show up at a funeral or at a wedding. Oh. And it'd be just the only two. Always disruptive. And then later on, I realized that generation of men and how they were sexually molested in boarding school as little boys.
Yeah.
As I started to work, you know, I was already in my teens when I realized that. My Grandpa John taught me all that. Those ugly, you know, colonizers had their way with the women, the men.
Well, even
Boys.
too, when our men and women go into prison, you know,
Yeah.
I have my friend whose sons come out of jail and they just start drinking, and I said, you don't know what they've lived with in that prison.
That's right.
I
And
said,
there's no way to protect yourself.
yes.
Oh.
That's why when I talk about like restorative and transformative justice, I'm talking about the whole concept of human sexuality. It's, you know, you can't, like, people don't want to talk about it. I'm going, no, you have to, because
But that's the underbelly of all of the analysis of all the work that we're doing in bringing forth all of these injustices. Yes, it looks financial. Yes, it looks like embezzlement, and doctoring documents, and making lawyers rich. You know, and then finding out your chief is on front page news for, you know, his violation towards men,
yes,
grown ass men.
that's
And then,
oh,
you know,
well,
I mean,
that's why when I went to Las Vegas and I was talking to the followers, they said we didn't know we were drinking the Kool-Aid, and they started talking about like his, you know, even his sexual preference to two-spirited teenagers. And
yeah,
then I thought about our chief and his propensity for boys. And I thought, you know, like, how deviant. Like,
yeah.
what was going on between, like, whatever was happening between, you know, like rituals and ceremonies that he became so dedicated to supporting this man and his followers.
Mm,
You know, because that forensic psychologist who'd been his therapist had said to the two tribal female policemen, he says he has a propensity for boys. Now, what the hell? And then he even said he'd even say, you know, I don't like this chief because of him, Nathan Chasing-Horse has thrived in Sutina. Again, what the hell was happening in those therapy sessions that you know, that these things he's bringing up to these two female constables. Now get this, our chief of police and his partner, who's also a policewoman, have a house up here in Pritis, like, and again, you know, right next to Chief Roy Whitney. So, you know, it makes me wonder why I got a special constable female to call. And again, where did those two women go? Because this person, this forensic psychologist, started. I heard them. They were in my living room right here, and he says they started talking about certain people they all knew, in terms of like human trafficking and things like that. And so that he felt at ease talking with them in front of me, but yet for me it was all a show, because if he had any gumption, he would have dealt with it rather than trying to get notoriety for knowing like the nitty gritty of Chief Whitney. Because he never met Nathan Chasing Horse at all. So that only led me to believe, like, what is it that he wants to become famous for? Which really sickened me. Still sickens me.
Well, what business does that psychologist have in disclosing confidential patient information to the cops?
So he could see again too. He knew that the Fifth Estate was going to interview me. So he wanted to make it public like that, because the police were also being interviewed by the Fifth Estate. Like, I'm pretty sure if the Fifth Estate hadn't decided to do a story, he would have kept quiet. Wouldn't have said anything in front of me.
Yeah.
See, I was in therapy too, and even when my therapist found out that the Fifth Estate was going to interview me, she set up 4 counseling sessions in 1 month. 4, that's 1 a week. Did I ask her for that? And I just thought, this is really this is too much. Again, this woman made her money off of listening to the survivors. Over 300 witnesses of Indian Residential School that she sat in to listen to their statements. That's why I'm really weary of mental health workers. That's why, for me, like Nietzsche Institute and just Indigenous people, helping Indigenous people is vital to healing. And they're taking that away. They took it away, and because of what? This woman pretending to be an ally. This woman, kissing the very ground of Indigenous men who other women from their communities wouldn't even touch them.
Yeah.
Really. As Indigenous women, we have taste. Shit. No, it's disgusting.
Yeah. They are disgusting. Yeah, very, very disgusting. Yeah.
So next week's our powwow. Of course, if it's going to be this smoky like this, I'm not going to be able to go. It's too much.
I'm not going anywhere.
Staying in and
Nowhere.
air
Like, this
conditioning.
is nothing. You should hear in Toronto, Ontario, my friend, it hasn't even warmed up. It's only July. In Ontario, there's 200 fires burning right now. Like, the whole town of Hamilton, Ontario is just covered in soot, smoke, like, horrible.
Well, they say they have 3 data centers in northern Ontario. They want to have a data center in northern Alberta, and I'm going, look at what the tar sands have done to all the northern trees. The whole northern section is all brittle because of the tar sands. And now they want to put data centers, drain more groundwater, make all the trees brittle again. Like, wake up. And then you have the audacity of these American senators saying, "Oh,
And then they're going to build a pipeline, though. you're gonna have all these chiefs lining up to take the contracts.
At the expense of women and children,
Yeah.
the most vulnerable. And they think, oh well, we'll get these contracts. Show me the money. Shit. I'm
Yeah.
74 years old. Ever since I was 15, it's like, show me the money. Where is it? Show me the money. It comes at a damn price. It comes at a damn price, and I sure as hell I'm not going to pay that price. Like I said, when I was director of education, I was, tempted with an offer so that instead of being fired, I'd be transferred. With better pay, less stress. But it would have come at a point where I would have had to have said yes to Roy Whitney. Like he came right to my office and offered that to me. And I said no. And all the other people who were on boards and, siphoning money, I said no. Like, I like until board members who are Indigenous have actually, lived in another country, have, paid their mortgage or rent or whatever, just, by working, then they can say, how hard it is to work as a board member. Even like I sat in as a nonprofit board chairperson, and the work I did, and the rest of the board just, unless you have somebody who's actually working, then the board's not going to survive. And that's just the reality of boards, but that's the reality of First Nations. Unless you have people who are actually going to work, do their due diligence, and take that criticism, the threats of being sued or somehow trying to keep you quiet. You have to have the courage to say something like my father, like my late father. You have to have a backbone. That backbone
Yeah.
means a hell of a lot. Like you said, all the ancestors that created Nietzsche, all that insight and wisdom they had, and yet nobody is looking at it, and yet they fucking well say, "Oh, I'm a traditional thinker." Bullshit. Bullshit to you. You don't know you don't know what you're doing to hurting our own people.
Yeah.
And that's why I said even the Native Women's Shelter, like even that, like that was supposed to be for Indigenous women, like from the tribes of the Treaty 7 area. What
But
else?
they do that in Edmonton too. The white people and all these pretendians, they take over all the not-for-profits. Yeah. Wow.
See, for me, like they invite me and I talk, they pay me an honorarium. And I've said to them, you need to really do more recruiting of Indigenous elders because I think there's 40,000 in the city. I said there's got to be more Indigenous elders out there that you can have on these committees or like organize those elders. But no, they have a select few.
It's always that Reggie and Rosemary, eh?
Yeah.
How did they make their way in there?
I think it's just the practices of what they do on a daily basis. Like, how do I put it? Who do you know that the city of Edmonton uses?
Uh, what's his name? Whiskey Jack. The university uses him. The city, Alberta. Francis Whiskey Jack. And his wife, Mariel.
Yeah, so they usually have a couple. So that way
Yeah.
it's like, like, oh, like, look, they're a happy couple. So it's not a, like there's certain, like again, the, what standards are they trying to emulate? And again, I remember when Ralph Steiner, when he became Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, his granddaughter was my second cousin. We went to, they were at the hotel, they were going to a banquet. So we went upstairs to his room, and he was getting ready, and he was talking to everybody in the room, and he said to my cousin, his granddaughter, he says, I wonder why the white government, pointed me this. Like what makes me so special to receive this honor? And he was talking to her, trying to, say, we've got to look at these things. Why do they do these things? What is their purpose behind it? And that's why, like, when I look at people who get these honorary degrees, I'm going, what purpose does it hold? What is it serving? See, and just until Danielle Smith came in, did they serve a lot of honorary degrees? No, they didn't. And again, too, by having these honorary degrees, it's taking away the money from the nonprofits or from the grassroots people who actually do the grunt work, the actual work, like yourself and my late mother, and thousands of other Indigenous people who've worked on the front lines. They're saying, oh, well, we've chosen a select few. I'm going, yeah, at the expense of taking away the funding for those projects that the grassroots people wanted in the first place and established. We're not perfect, not far from it. But the reality of it is like, it's just like, people have depending on people to support and to help people, guide people. And it's not just an individual, it's a group of people that are being guided, and then you take that away. That's why, like when I think about this recovery center, and I just, like I said, all the things that we try to face, like all those people who sobered up trying to face like the abuse they created, the time they've served in prison for the abuse they've created, and then for them to live in our communities. Like all these things, it's not easy. Let's put Danielle Smith in there. She wouldn't, like I always say that about white feminists. They sure like to talk. I said, oh, well, come on. Live a year in my community. In any Indigenous community. It's one thing to talk, but it's another thing to actually do it.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know how things are going to work out, but I know it makes me angry. And yeah, I have acquaintances who say, oh, well, Maureen, I wouldn't spend the time of day to even go and see Nathan Chasing Horse being sentenced. And all the money I put out to do that is nothing compared to like all his victims. That poor man who lost his son because
Yeah.
Nathan said he was going to cure him of cancer.
Uh-huh.
And I say to like even my niece, she the followers say, yeah, we know she was hogtied and gang raped by his followers, but the word with her friends, and these are her friends in Nevada, even though she's living here in Sutina now, says she won't press charges. And I said, yes, that's the point. I said, even like she had disclosed this, and yet one of the ladies that has a podcast that I called up and I said, could you interview me? Nathan Chasing Horse has been arrested. She didn't know me. She did a lot of advocacy for the Native Women's Shelter. She said, okay. And she puts it on Facebook. And so my niece saw it. And she sent her an email and said, why are you going to interview my auntie? And she told her not to interview me. And this was like during the whole time that the tribal police were interviewing her too, and her disclosing, yeah, she had been sexually assaulted by Nathan's followers. And even my contact with the tribal police said, oh, she's not following him anymore. And I said, well, then why is she contacting the lady who I'm doing the podcast on? Why is she demanding that she not publish the podcast? I said, this isn't just one time. I said, twice within 3 or 4 months. I said, my niece has confronted this woman and saying, don't interview my aunt. I said, she's still following him, even though she claims she's been sexually assaulted. Like, there's some sort of, I don't know, in psychology they call it, like you say, psychosis. There's also this disassociation or multiple personalities or something where, people have gone through so much that they still don't want to believe the unbelievable. Like the one man, he divorced his wife. He's working. He's not educated. He's working. He bought a house, a mortgage, so that Nathan Chasing Horse's parents could live in there. Like, these are still followers of him. And so how many, like, just like sleeper cells, how many of these young people are so out of touch with their traditional roots, their home communities, that they have to gravitate to some fallacy, some illusion, some mythology that they create and create a cult of it. When they cannot damn well go back to their home communities, their home reservations, Inuit, Métis, or First Nations communities, and live there. That's why I say, it's just like a feminist or any pretendian. If they're like, even that's why I say some have status cards and never lived in community. And yet, like, if they did, I'm pretty, like I always say, why didn't people look and see why didn't he have a bunch of followers from the reservation he came from? You're like, come on, people, smarten up. Look at where he was born and raised. Why did he run away? Why did he run away to make his, whatever money he could make? So, as much as people want to think that, like, it's not significant, it is significant, because it's a reflection on how desperate we are to hold on to our culture and our identity. But it's how and when and how to use it in an appropriate way. That's why, like when I'm talking with you about Nietzsche Institute and just the groundwork of it, the whole fact is like, where in the hell of all North America has there been such a program? We really need to, have a voice about it, because damn it, we're not stupid. We're not ignorant. We didn't lose our culture. It's embedded in the Nietzsche Institute for time and prosperity. It's not like yeah, there's all these people who talked about their experience, and they want to destroy those records in 2027. Like, I'm saying, this whole what do you call it? Indian residential school, industrial school denialism. Again, they're trying to erase our oral history. Like 10, 20,000 years, they're still trying to erase it. Like, how stupid.
That's a Supreme Court decision. It was a directive from the Supreme Court when it went to court. And again, it's all the men that were in charge of that whole fucking thing. The bureaucratic mess that they've created. Like, who gave Phil Fontaine the authority to go ahead and settle for $10,000 fucking dollars? Nobody. He never sought this. He didn't seek. free, prior, and informed consent. He fucking breached it. He sold us out. That's why all these shit is happening to him now. Oh yeah, okay, then he's not been found guilty. But it still hangs over his ugly head. Him and his wife could afford to buy land and a big giant house west of Calgary towards Banff. They sit comfortably with all the millions of dollars that they made. Him and this Kathleen Mahoney. No different from Rath. And I think they should be investigated too. And how they went into cahoots. That fucking bitch, Kathleen Mahoney, I can't stand her.
Sleeping with the enemy. Well, she was my mom's lawyer. She really, put her clinches or claws into Calgary. I think this is before she even hooked up with Fontaine. Or she was probably in the back room, well, again percolating to the top as the fry bread burns.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Shit. Morality. Did you hear about that senator, the one that died? He's 71 years old. What the hell is it? He was 71. He died last week.
Yeah, okay, the one in the U.S.?
Yeah, and so all these sexual encounters that he paid off to men, like
sexual what? Sorry.
You know how, like you said, some of these legal have been paid off, like they've been given money. What did you?
Oh, settling out of court.
Yes, so he did that. But now that he's dead, it's okay for them to talk and say, like it's a man. Like I'm just going, jeez. That's why I say, all these politicians who've settled out of court, like even my neighbor here, Emmett, I hear he's moved to Arizona because he settled out of court with the victim.
Oh.
Oh yes, as the fry bread burns. It really burns. Moved? Yes. And there's also implication too with money, again, being siphoned into his company. Understand this, you have a trucking company. If you're in cahoots with the head chief, he gives you contracts. Shit. Damn it, anyway.
And that's Regina's nephew?
No, that's, she's not through marriage, no. Distant, though. Distant. Mm. Yeah.
But they were on council together.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, on council. Brother and sister, or nephew and auntie, adoption type of thing. But it's amazing that when people die, that all the shit, it can be revealed because, there's no law about it now. And then my white friend and her friend, I had a Stampede breakfast with them, and they were talking about these Republican conferences they have in the United States. And of course, I'm so naive. Like, I didn't even know that you could freely access porn until the pandemic, because I was talking to my white friends about sexually transmitted diseases in old folks' homes. And so I found out, oh my goodness, you mean it's legal? You can actually surf the web and find porn? Did not know that. But see, again, I'm being educated by white women. So I'm at the Stampede breakfast, and she said, yeah, when they have these Republican conferences, the app Grindr shuts down. And I said, what do you mean Grindr? Do you know the software Grindr? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Like, I didn't know.
This is what, 19 hours ago, I have to read this to you. I know you're busy. Regina Crowchild, this is Lance Manywounds. Okay, 19 hours ago. Regina Crowchild and Jeannie Crowchild, let's continue the conversation here. Jeannie, you seem to know so much about the litigation. Please free to position accordingly. A defamation and slander are real offenses, so please enlighten me on offenses that I am apparently guilty of. What Indian country needs is transparency and accountability, and I will share anything you accuse me of. You must be better if we want better. We must be better if we want better. And Jeannie Crowchild, did you file your conflict of interest paperwork for this term? And so, Lance Many Wounds again. Weird. Regina Crowchild, Jean and Crowchild. Let's have this discussion in the open so people can see. I'm still a volunteer and I work for $1 a month. I only think about my grandkids and 7 generations. Regina, we both agreed on transparency, so let's share what's been going on. At our last band meeting, you called out myself and the casino board on renovation, saying that they and I were causing catastrophic harm to the casino, when truth was that the board tasked me to get the renovation on the rails. Somehow we bid out the casino with 4 pieces of papers, $100 million, and thought it would just work out. Regina, you've been in council for a very long time on Tsuut'ina. Where was your transparency? Where did you spend my kids' money and my grandkids' money? Please explain how you allocated resources to the casino and the nation in general. Did you support not removing Roy as when he was charged? Can you explain why? Agreed, guilty until proven innocent, but please explain your rationale. P.S. to all family associated with Regina and Jeannie. I support you. I apologize. This is playing out publicly, but part of cleaning things up is calling out the nonsense that's happened. Tsuut'ina is a mess, but we are cleaning it up so we can support our members. The Chief Starlight and his office will work with anyone to move the nation forward. So then 8 minutes ago, Lance Many Wounds posted, Regina Crowchild and Jeannie Crowchild, where are you both at? Let's have this conversation in the open, not in the shadows. I've worked my ass off to accumulate the skill sets I have, and it hasn't been easy, and I'm building after a catastrophic investment I made into someone in 2021, and it cost me literally 20 million plus. And thank God I have patient investors because they got caught in it as well. I'm responsible for a lot of other people's money, and I don't take that lightly. It's the hardest thing, which both you will understand, is you're not in the fight. Regina, you're supposed to be a fiduciary, but you flat out failed. You just spend the nation's money to go talk about treaty. Tell what you did. What did you accomplish? Let me tell you something about treaty. You need a war chest of money to fight, an entire law firm of lawyers to fight, because you're literally fighting one of the oldest monarchies in the world and going up against a country with hundreds of billions in resources. If I hear about you slandering me again, you'll be talking to my lawyers next. One of the chiefs who slandered me too is willing to sign an affidavit for your information. This is your one and only warning. That was 11 minutes ago.
As the fry bread burns.
Yeah. Wanda Crowchild posted 5 hours ago. I, for one, would like to know what the hell is going on. This treatment center, this health center, and the counselors taking leave with pay. How the hell does that happen? I mean, they get money waved at them all of a sudden. It's where do I sign? And the thought of the nation's well-being and generations' future fucking goes out the window. Yeah, council should carry some shame. If you're being called out, then there must be a damn good reason. And we need to know. Those of you who barely get by making ends meet, and some of us homeless, we deserve to know is what is happening for our nation. I, for one, I'm sure we feel like, well, there's the decision makers. It's on them if they fuck up. And it's not, oh, look, they actually did and we're broke again. But don't you get mad. That's a paid position. XAKUGA, that's a chief, I guess?
Yeah, that's a name for the chief.
Yeah, paid, what the non-status call it, public position. Keyword public. Lieutenant counselor means we get to know what's going on. So don't start fighting back. Just admit there's something wrongdoing, and see how we can fix it. When the swearing in of a chief and council is going on, it should be amended to include, I swear I will not sign away our rights, and I will swear to never take bribes. I swear to give all monies made to the people of Tsuut'ina. I just threw that last one in there because I want to go to the casino. I want to thank Lance Many Moons. You know there's a lot of warriors, good warriors out there, and Lance is one, making sure there's accountability. So, Lance Many Wounds comes back 3 hours ago. He says, Wanda Crowchild, thank you. It's been hard because the nonsense and lies that get spewed out are egregious. Weird are just trying to make things better, but we're handed a complete disaster from the last leadership, whom Regina Crowchild was a part of. You all were a few steps from getting third-partied. What happened is the unacceptable, and it needs to be told. They lied to all of us. Yeah, it's so bad. Lance Many Wounds says, Wanda Crowchild. Regina Crowchild, you need to chime in. Please enlighten us on what actually came from the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of nation dollars spent for your travel all over the years going around talking about treaty. Jeannie Crowchild, what did you accomplish at AFN? Yeah. Gina better just fucking get herself a lawyer.
It sounds like it, and the same with Jeannie.
Yeah. And the more Jeannie mouths off, the worse it's gonna get.
Well, again, she's like Roy Whitney. She really believes she's innocent, that her hands are clean.
Well, Jeannie works for her mom. It's quite obvious she answers to her every beck and call. She thinks that she's a rock star.
She's living in a delusion or an illusion. Again, when people aren't in the real world, aren't balanced, this is my own philosophy, my own opinion, is that sometimes, like, I always picture that Christian, Adam and Eve and the tree, and the serpent and the tree, and those trees like are apples. I it's like if you're not balanced, it's like all of a sudden somebody's going to shake that tree and all the apples are going to fall down. And when she's saying, "Oh, we're contributing," well, no, you're not, because if you were contributing, the apples would still be on the tree, and everybody would get to eat those apples. It,
Yeah. The
trauma.
fact is, they've been in there too freaking long. Same thing happened with us in Samson. I ain't judging. It's the way it is. They normalize this, corruption.
Well, like even with human trafficking, people
Exactly.
get their daughters, 14, 15-year-olds who get pregnant and they marry them off right away, or they're so poor that they can't look after their daughters, so they marry them off. Uh, Even like, okay, you get transferred out, well, you're another community's responsibility, not ours. And yet the men keep on marrying women who come into the communities. Like that Indian Act is like really hurt women, and made us attack one another. I
Yeah.
I just my friend said, Marina, she says, I wish, my in my life, I'd like to see young women not be so vicious to other young women. This patriarchy, like that's the reality of it. And I said, well, for me as an elder and knowing the women that I've grown up with, and seeing younger women, like I'm seeing a transition, but I think there's needs to be more education done. And it's too bad because like Nietzsche Institute could have been instrumental in doing some sort of curriculum on, young adolescent girls.
We did that work.
Oh, okay.
I did work in child welfare, developing curriculum on kids aging out population, on the youth um, training schools, but they just shut us out.
Oh, and see, and that's what it's like, reinventing the damn wheel again, because they give money to the University of Calgary for their Indigenous program, and what do? They PhD these people out. Again, without actually having any resources, like say, referencing
Mhm.
Nietzsche. And again, who's getting the laureates? These, white academics, or these people who have, can say, oh, I've got Indigenous blood, even if they don't have a status card, they still say I have Indigenous blood, and I'm going, have you lived and have you lived in Inuit, First Nations, or Métis communities? If you haven't, then don't even don't have a pot to piss in. So get out of the stew, get out of this, what we're cooking up, because you don't know where it begins and where it ends.
Mm.
They're just trying to get, like, you can't take it with you, like Buffy St. Marie. Shit, she can't take all the credit of whatever the hell she thinks she created, or in her delusional mind.
No, that's the epitome, and Alvin Manitopia is sticking up for her.
Well, like I said, there's so many people too, still picking up for Nathan Chasing Horse. And even back in the day, Elvin contacted me. Oh, I saw Nathan at the Elbow River Casino. What should I do? Call the police. Oh, no, I'm not going to turn in a brother. What the fuck? Why call me in the first place then?
He actually said that.
Yeah.
So he's just a fucking gossip queen. That's all he is.
I've gone through all that with people, and it's heartbreaking that, I had wanted to go down to the jury, and then I managed to go down to the sentencing. But even, people thinking, oh, well, Marina, what you're doing is admirable. But when it came to it, only one person came out and helped me. And I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful for that. And because of that, it's empowered me to do more podcasts, and and really talk about how important it is for Indigenous women to talk about their lives, because it means something.
Mm. One of the chiefs actually came up to me, and when I was sitting in the big room with the chiefs, I'm sitting at the front row because I'm hard of hearing most of the time, and I get easily distracted by my attention deficit disorder kicks in, and I get trying to be analytical over there and looking at this one over there. What the hell is he doing here? And then I'm going back again to what's going on in the podium. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I get distracted. Anyway, the chief comes up to me and he said, Marilyn, I heard you speak last night, and it really moved me what you said. Because I talked about poverty and about us women and children, our children being defenseless, trying to go to school, and we're being bombarded with all this racism. And I said, the big problem is 50% of our population is not engaged. That's the women. We don't have a voice. Like, I can't go to this meeting tomorrow and stand up and speak. It's only for chiefs, and the majority of the chiefs are men. They've never experienced our way of looking at life. Oh yeah, they call us life givers, they call us, but at the end of the day, our opinion doesn't matter. It's very, the matriarchy is ignored. I'm not saying that I need to be back in the limelight, or I need to. No, our women need training. They need to know. They need to go back to the basics. Be homemakers again. To be the artists. To be the doctors. To be the lawyers. To take control of their children and their households. Like, bake Bannock. Don't go standing in line at the Tim Hortons every fucking day. Cook a big home-cooked meal for your kids. Something, like back to the basics. And anyway, he said, I really appreciate what you had to say. He said, because I hear you, and I, he said, I just wish that I could do more to help you. And then he started talking like that, and then we got distracted. One of the chiefs went up and spoke, and I knew he was going to break down and start crying when we talked, because he was making an intervention on a residential school denialism, and he was sexually abused as a child, and he, in fact, has been charged as an adult many years ago, and has done work in this area all his life. So, excuse me, I said, I have to go support my friend. So I got up, and you won't believe this, about 10 people got up the same time as I did, and we went and stood behind that chief that spoke. So I never was able to go back and pick it up. But I could tell that it was really troubling for him. Like, he's trying to find solutions. He's trying to find methods by which he knows things are not going well. He could see that his community is suffering and this and that, but they don't know how to engage us. They don't. So as a result, they just keep going to meetings. So, it makes me realize that we need to get organized. But we can't do it relying on other organizations and Indian affair, and I mean, we could probably get money later on, but
Well,
Daniel Smith is sure as hell not going to organize us.
well, like this weekend, Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Wachipi, the powwow, 80 years. So I was like 6 years old. I was 6 years old, and they'd already been, celebrating every year for 6 years by the time I was born. And I think in my grandmother, Daisy Dewan Crane Crowchild, she did a lot of volunteer work, like with the Anglican Church, doing the rummage sales, you know, selling, getting secondhand clothes and selling them, refurbishing them, making money. And because she was Dakota Sioux and my mom was Dakota Sioux as well, she took that auxiliary money, and she rented a tent, like a big top, but it was only like I think 10 feet by 6 feet. It was a long rectangular tent, and she had people put it up by our old community hall. That was our first Indian days. That's how it started with my grandmother's bake sale, rummage sale monies.
Was
Like,
that in Satina?
yeah, at Sutina, that was the women's auxiliary that did that.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I was 12, so let's see, 12. I'm 74 now. Oh,
62 years ago.
yeah, okay, so 62 years ago. That's in 1964.
Mm.
So a lot of people want to, claim that, oh, well, so and so was on chief and so was on council, but it was the women who fundraised the money. Like I said,
Well,
and
that's what I told that chief when I spoke that night before. I said, we're the ones, you go to any band office in this country, it's the women that are running the show. We're the backbone of the community. We know what goes on. We live it. We're lawyers, we're accountants, we're band managers, we're HR directors, social workers, educators, teachers. We're the ones, I said, that run the show. But we're not at the tables.
yep.
And I think I really shook him up.
Well, see, in 64, like 62, 63, 64, 65, that's when alcohol was, like I said, the alcohol was coming in, and it was just all of a sudden the community went silent. So that that the women coming together and making money, like, I don't know if it was jealousy, men being jealous of other men's wives, I don't know, or just the fact that they were beating up their wives and didn't want anybody to know. Who the hell knows? But I agree. Like my friend in Long Plains, I've known her since she was 15. Works has worked in administration her entire life. My cousin, she's, 65, director of education, not education, director of health. Just women. Yourself, like I said, it's the backbone, and yet because of patriarchy and colonial ways of thinking, it's like women aren't thinking, women can't think, and yet who looks after their adult children, and who looks after their grandchildren, even their adult grandchildren? It's women. That's why I said, you can say matriarchy and all this stuff. I said, no, you got to be born and you have to live in it. You're not obeying that man who's not even concerned about who's looking after his children. It comes down to women.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anyway,
It's like that young woman, that Michaela, that did the blast on the fucking pancakes. Bash's pancakes. She's gone viral. It'll be 1 billion views. And you know, she's white, she's young, she's lippy, she's gutsy, she's, you know, shows up in her jeans and t-shirt, cutoffs, and she's not going to get beat up by the cops. They're going to let her go.
Yeah, because she's
But
white.
if I did that, they'd fucking throw me in a penitentiary right now.
Well, look at what they did with Brandy Moran, investigative Indigenous
Yeah.
reporter.
That's right.
You know, arrested her.
Mm-hmm.
And what the hell did she do? She wrote speeches for fucking Danielle Smith. And then what does Danielle Smith do? Stab her in the back.
Of course.
You know, I've grown up with white women like that. You know,
I wish that woman, Brandy Moran, would not pucker up her lips like that. She looks like she's fucking stoned all the time. All that lipo
injections.
on her. Oh my God. Oh, it's disgusting. It's a distraction to me. I'm like, where the fuck are you coming from? Like, Brand, yeah, I agree with you, but what the hell did you do to your face? All fucking swollen lips. Every time she gets a different look. What's going on? I hope she's doing okay. I worry about her.
Oh yeah, the stress, how she's responding to stress.
Like yeah. Like I know what it's like to be targeted.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing too. Is like, even for me, when I came back from Las Vegas, and I just wanted anonymity. I didn't want nobody to know what I was doing, where I was going, nothing. Just so I didn't have to deal with that extra stress. And even talking to, you know, people about like how I was feeling, all that was personal. And again, everything we do in life that's hard teaches us something. But, you know, we've got to take care of our mental health.
Our spiritual health. And that's what Nietzsche was all about, my friend. Was taking care of your spirit. The spirit will take care of you if your spirit is healthy. That's why, you know, I'm very blunt when it comes to women and their, you know, I spent, 3 hours last night with one woman, and all her kids are on crack, meth, crystal meth. And she's now taking care of all her grandkids. And they raise shit, her kids raise shit all hours of the night, 20, 30 years old. These are grown-ass kids.
Yes.
They don't have no fucking education. They didn't go to school. They just get stoned up all damn day.
Yeah, like my friend in Portage, you know, her son is staying in her house that she has in Portage, climbs up on top of the roof, gets police presence at least once a month. Stuff, like I said, it's, you know, even with my sister and her boys, like I don't interfere because, you know, when they're high, I can't reach them, can't talk to them. You know, some things, like even with women's attitudes towards me, I can't change them. You know, they've been indoctrinated and they're narcissistic or Machiavellian. Like I don't have time for that. Like it's one thing, like I said, like, you know, living alone and being lonely and taking care of my spirit, all that. You know, I have to be really, you know, have some boundaries down to protect myself. And more so too, like even talking about what we're talking about. You know, these things, like some people just don't even give a damn or even want to talk about it, because as soon as you talk about it, they change the subject. And because
you know why? Because it hurts them too, and their kids are involved in that shit. Them too have been sexually molested, and their kids never dealt with it. Oh yeah, and you think of all those children that are out there, and the hundreds of thousands of them that are now in childcare.
Yes.
And nobody there to defend them.
Exactly. I know when I took my niece, 7 years of therapy, 7 years, just nurturing her. Like it takes, you got to do the work. But if you're just on battle fatigue, because there's too many. I
Well,
just
that's
had one.
exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about with the women that are suffering now. Right? That's a good word. Thank you, battle fatigue. You too, I could hear that when you were in Vegas and we had no money, and I had to figure out how I was going to move over here, and like I get involved in this and that. I get invited to meetings and shit, and I have to be really careful, analytical. And you too, you do the same thing. You're always on the go. Like you need a full-time assistant to help you with your wheelchair, your motor car, with your plants and your medicines.
Yes, but at least I'm getting, like I have some help now. Like I'm just grateful I can call this constable.
Oh, so he's helpful.
Yes, her name is Cheryl.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. So
I wish I could come down and visit and spend a week, go just hang out. But
yes,
me too, I got challenges here, and I gotta get my kids back into school. My grandson who just had a baby.
oh yeah,
Did I tell you now I'm a great grandma
yeah,
again
yeah, yeah,
yesterday?
yeah. You were in Ottawa when
But
you called.
guess what? Guess what? This I'm not sharing with too many people except my closest friends. Maybe some of my family. Maybe, I doubt it though. But they tend to have loose lips. The baby was born in an ambulance.
Yeah,
1 month early.
yeah. You were telling me that.
Yeah. So, thank God the baby. Did I send you a picture?
No.
I sent one on Messenger, I think. As we were talking about an hour ago, my grandson sent me one. I sent it to Marina Ann Crane.